She stood there barefoot in the kitchen, swirling red wine in a glass that wasn't from our set. It was crystal fancy, and I'd never seen it before in our cabinets. Her eyes were calm, too calm, and her lips were curled into a smile that didn't belong on her face. That smile, it was like she was already gone. I had just come in from the backyard, hands still dirty from planting the tree our grandson, and I picked out at the nursery that morning. A silver maple. Symbolic, I thought. Growth. Stability. Roots. Amy, I said, brushing dirt from my shirt. Guess what? I just burned the mortgage note. She blinked at me, that smile not budging. What? The mortgage. It's gone. Paid off. We're free. I smiled, expecting her to cheer, maybe cry. I'd been planning this for months, paying off extra when she wasn't looking, even skipping out on upgrading my truck so we could own the house outright by spring. I was going to surprise her with a dinner. Candles. Her favorite lamb chops. It was going to be a moment we remembered forever. She tilted her head like she didn't understand English. Oh, she said. Just, oh. Then she took another sip of wine and turned her back on me to stare out the window. Silence hung between us. That was when I felt it. You know that moment when your gut tightens? When your instincts scream, look again. Look closer. That moment landed on me like a cold slap. I looked at her and realized she wasn't wearing her ring. I didn't say anything at first. I walked over to the sink, slowly, watching her reflection in the window. My mouth went dry. You okay? I asked. She laughed softly. Actually, she said, setting the glass down with a clink, I've been meaning to talk to you. That's when she said it. Calm. Direct. Like it was weather. I'm leaving. His name is Kai. He's my yoga teacher. We're in love. We're going to Bali. I just stared at her. Not because I didn't hear her, but because I did. His name is Kai. We're going to Bali. The words didn't even sound real. They sounded like something from one of those Hallmark movies she used to watch when she pretended to still enjoy my company. You're, what? I asked, feeling something heavy press against my chest. But she didn't look at me. Not once. I wasn't going to say anything until after the ceremony, she continued. My graduation. I didn't want to ruin the moment for myself. But now that you've gone and burned the mortgage, I figure it's time. She laughed again, shaking her head. You always were so theatrical. I stepped back, feeling the weight of the air change in the room. Something cracked inside of me. Not like glass. No. It was deeper. It was the sound a tree makes when it's split down the center by lightning. It doesn't fall all at once. It holds itself for a beat before everything crashes. She picked up her phone. Scrolled. Smiled again. Kai says hi, by the way. I didn't move. Not yet. I just watched her. Watched her. And in that moment, something in me sharpened. It wasn't rage. It was focus. I said nothing. I turned and walked upstairs. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I opened the safe behind the bookshelf, the one Amy never noticed. Took out the paperwork. The transfer deed. The notarized forms. 1 week ago, I had signed the house over to my grandson, Cody. Quietly. Legally. Ironclad. Amy thought she could run away with her soulful yoga guy and then come back to pick at the bones. But she didn't know that the second I saw her practicing poses in that mirror, smiling at her phone like a teenager, I knew something was wrong. I didn't confront her then. I waited. I played dumb. And I prepared. She thought this house was her safety net, her launch pad, her trophy. But soon she learned what happens when you betray a man who gave you everything. And she learned it the hard way, when the smart lock refused her thumbprint, when the doors no longer opened, when she realized she didn't own a single square inch of the life she thought she could walk away from and waltz back into. But that part comes later. For now, I just stood at the top of the stairs, listening to her hum some stupid song while she typed away, probably booking tickets to Bali. I smiled for the first time that day, because Amy didn't know what was coming. She thought she was playing me. She had no idea I'd already flipped the board. The next morning, she was gone. Not gone. Her purse was still on the entryway table, her keys beside it. But her scent was missing from the air, her voice absent from the house like a song you suddenly realize you haven't heard in hours. There was a silence that didn't feel like peace. It felt surgical, precise, like the aftermath of something deliberate. I made coffee. Strong, black, the way she hated it. sat on the porch in my flannel robe, listening to the wind nudge the chimes. The maple tree Cody and I planted yesterday was standing proud, leaves catching early sunlight like tiny fists. I remember looking at it and thinking, that tree's going to outlive all of this. Outlive her. Outlive even me. I didn't have to guess where she was. Her yoga mat was gone from the mudroom, and the rose gold water bottle, the one I got her for our 10th anniversary, was missing too. I imagined her pulling into that studio parking lot, head high, braless under one of those ridiculous crop tops, pretending she was 29 again. Pretending she was free. Let her pretend. For now, I wasn't going to blow the lid off it yet. No confrontation. Not yet. You only get one shot at a moment like that. One shot to make the betrayal echo. If you fire too early, it fizzles. You wait until the walls are tight around them. Then you speak. And only then. But I didn't spend the morning idle. No, I spent it preparing. I moved quietly, like a man oiling tools before a storm. The first thing I did was call my lawyer, Bill Mason. We've been friends since high school football, back when Amy was still dating rich boys who didn't know how to bleed. I told Bill the full story. No theatrics, just the facts. And I said the words that had been sitting on my tongue for days now, heavy and hot. I want everything buttoned up. House deeds already in Cody's name, but I want a formal declaration filed with the county by noon today. No wiggle room. Bill whistled low. You serious about this? As a heart attack, I said. And I want her off the bank accounts. I'll pull cash for what she needs. She's not touching what's mine. He didn't argue. Bill knows me. Knows I don't pull the trigger until I've measured the weight of it 3 times. Next, I went upstairs to our bedroom, her bedroom now, in my mind, and opened the closet. Her side smelled like lilac and lies. That perfume she always spritzed before going to the studio, as if she thought sweat and betrayal needed a floral finish. I took out the small fireproof box from under my socks. Inside, the last piece of leverage I needed. A thumb drive. Photos. Screenshots. Even a voice memo. One of Kai's late-night calls she thought I'd slept through, where he whispered, "Leave him soon, baby. He sounds pathetic." Pathetic. Let's talk about pathetic, Kai. Let's talk about a 35-year-old man with a man bun, living off essential oils and my wife's grocery money. Let's talk about your white Jeep that she's been filling with gas on my credit card. Let's talk about the hidden cameras I installed in the garage last year when the raccoons kept knocking over the trash cans, and how one of them just happened to catch Amy getting her chakras realigned against the hood of my Ford Explorer. I hadn't watched all the footage yet. Couldn't bring myself to. But I had seen enough. Let them laugh behind my back. Let them think I was the blind, old fool watering flowers while his wife bloomed for someone else. I was letting that image breathe because it made what was coming more poetic. And the best part? Amy had no clue I'd activated the Smart Locks biometric wipe. Last week, while she was out at a yoga retreat, I removed her print from the system. Just one swipe on my phone. She didn't even know. At noon, she came back, waltzing in like it was just another day, hair tousled, cheeks flushed, smug like someone who thinks she holds all the cards. I didn't confront her. Didn't flinch. Just smiled. Handed her the decaf coffee she always pretended to like, and asked how her morning had been. She kissed me on the cheek. Actually kissed me. And said, "You know, it's almost scary how peaceful you've been lately." "Peaceful's a choice," I said. "Some of us have finally figured out what matters." She smiled, sipping the coffee, not realizing she was swallowing the beginning of her end. The trap was closing. But not yet. Not yet. That night, she tried to touch me. Not a full seduction, no. Amy wasn't the type to come crawling. She slid into bed after her shower, smelling like lavender and someone else's fingers. I was already under the covers, half turned away, pretending to read some old Tom Clancy paperback I hadn't touched in years. I felt her shift closer. Her leg brushed mine. Then her hand landed gently on my shoulder, tentative, almost testing. "I miss us," she whispered, her voice just loud enough to pierce the quiet. I didn't move. Not a breath. Not a blink. She waited. I could feel her eyes on me, searching for warmth, guilt, a crack in the mask. There was none. I had buried every instinct, every ounce of heartbreak, under layers of ice. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because I refused to give her the satisfaction. Amy pulled her hand back a moment later. I could hear her swallow. Then she rolled away. She didn't know it, but that was the last night she'd ever sleep in that bed with me. The countdown had begun, and her expiration date was coming in sharp, cold letters. The next morning, I drove out to see Cody. My grandson is 23, smart as hell, and loyal. Lives 2 towns over in a fixer-upper apartment with a cracked front window and a fridge that hums like a dying bear. I told him to be home by 10, and when I pulled up, he was already waiting out front, sipping gas station coffee and wearing that confused look young men wear when life comes at them sideways. "You okay, Grandpa? Let's go inside." We sat at his cluttered kitchen table. I laid out the deed transfer again, in full detail, even though he already signed everything last week. But now, I needed him to understand. This isn't just about protecting the house, Cody. This is about dignity. About principle. She's trying to take something she didn't earn, and she thinks I'm too soft to stop her. He nodded slowly. "You want me to be here when it goes down?" I smiled. "No. I want you to stay out of it. Just make sure the paperwork is safe. Don't talk to anyone. Not even your dad." "Not yet." Cody leaned back and whistled. "She really did it, huh? And Amy." I hated how he still called her that. And Amy. Like she hadn't gutted this family with her bare hands and a fake yoga mat. "She made her choice," I said. "Now she's going to live with the consequences." I left his place by noon and stopped at the hardware store. Picked up a few things I didn't need. Paint thinner, a padlock, a small safe. Let my routine look normal, just in case Amy started sniffing around. When I got home, she wasn't there. A note on the fridge said, "Back at the studio. Don't wait for dinner. Love you." Love. That word was a goddamn punchline now. Instead of replying, I walked straight into the garage. Opened the cabinet behind the tool bench. Inside was the box with the hidden camera footage, the one Amy definitely didn't know existed. I watched 20 minutes. That's all I could stomach. Amy, bent over the hood, moaning like she was in a movie. Kai behind her, grinning like the snake he is, saying things I won't repeat. And when it was over, she turned to him and laughed. Laughed about me. About the old man who still thinks she's coming home to him. I didn't rage. Didn't cry. I just pressed pause. Ejected the drive. Slid it into the small safe I'd bought earlier. Locked it. She thought she had secrets. So did I. That night, I watched her eat pasta at our dinner table, talking about how the yoga community was planning a retreat in Costa Rica. She twirled her fork like a teenager, I sparkling. "You should come," she said with a grin. "You need to unwind. You've been so tense lately." "Tense?" I asked. "You're not yourself." I stared at her. "Maybe I am," I said. "Maybe this is the real me, Amy. The one who's finally wide awake." She laughed nervously, brushing it off. "You're scaring me." I smiled. "Good." The final piece of my plan was almost ready. I had only one thing left to set in motion, and when it snapped into place, she'd never see it coming. Not until the door refused her touch. Not until she realized she was nothing more than a ghost in a house that no longer knew her name. 2 nights later, I caught her slipping out, not walking out the front door. No, Amy was never that careless. She moved like fog, quiet, deliberate. Thought she was a shadow in my blind spot. But I was watching. It was past midnight. I pretended to go to bed early, left the bedside lamp off, even let my snoring soundtrack play from my phone under the pillow. She waited. I heard the soft creak of the floorboard near the closet, the one she always avoided when she thought I was asleep. Then came the sound of a zipper, the faint rustle of nylon, and the tiniest click as she closed her overnight bag. She wore jeans, a black hoodie, no makeup, hair tied back. Not dressed for yoga. Dressed for secrecy. I followed her from the window first. Watched her tiptoe across the driveway and get into the white Jeep. The one she said belonged to one of the instructors. The one I knew Kai drove. She didn't look back. Didn't hesitate. Just pulled out and disappeared into the night. I didn't follow her. Not yet. I already knew where she was going. What I didn't know was who else knew. And that was the next step, leverage. I opened the file I'd been compiling. Printed screenshots. Call logs. Bank statements showing small transfers she didn't think I'd notice. Grocery purchases that went to someone else's address. Gas bills on a card I hadn't used in 3 months. Even a Venmo payment labeled yoga props that somehow totaled $600. I made copies of everything. One for my lawyer, one for Cody, one for her mother, who still thought I was the luckiest man alive to have landed such a vibrant woman. That same woman once said I wasn't ambitious enough for Amy, that I didn't match her energy. I was about to show them all what my energy looked like when it stopped pretending. I was in the kitchen at 5:30 when she came back. She entered quietly, thinking I was still asleep. Shoes in her hand, hoodie halfway off, hair messy but not in the innocent kind of way. Her face was flushed, glowing like someone who'd been worshipped all night. I sipped my coffee, leaned against the counter. Her eyes snapped up when she saw me. She froze mid-step. "Morning," I said, calm. Her mouth opened, closed. "You're up early. You're back late." She blinked. "I went to yoga. We had a full moon, I wasn't asking," I said. That shut her up. She crossed the room slowly, placing her bag down near the coat rack like it weighed 50 pounds. I could smell him on her. Not cologne. Not sweat. His presence. That smothering, sickly scent of another man on your woman, the kind of smell that changes the air in a room. "Everything okay?" she asked, and I swear, she had the audacity to touch my arm. I stepped back, and I smiled. That same smile I gave her when I handed her decaf instead of her double-shot espresso last week. That same smile I gave when she told me she was finding herself, and I told her I hoped she got a good refund. "Amy," I said softly, "I've decided we need to celebrate." She tilted her head. "Celebrate what?" I leaned in a little, just enough for her to think I was about to forgive something. "Freedom." She looked confused. I continued. "You remember what you said the other night? About wanting to go to Bali with Kai? That he's your soulmate?" Her lips parted, ready to backpedal. "No," I said. "Don't do that. Don't lie to me now. I'm not angry. I'm just done pretending we're anything other than strangers wearing rings." She stepped closer. "I didn't mean for you to, but you did," I said. "And you still do. That's the thing, Amy. You don't trip and fall into betrayal. You walk into it. You drive to it in a Jeep at midnight with an overnight bag and delete your texts afterward." Her jaw clenched. "Good. Which is why," I said, "this house is no longer your home." I didn't raise my voice. Didn't flinch. Just held her gaze. She laughed. Laughed. Like I'd told a joke. "You think you're kicking me out of the house?" she said, her voice rising. "This house?" "No," I said. "I'm telling you it isn't yours anymore. You don't live here. You just forgot to pack." And then I dropped the final blow for the morning, not the final one, but the one that would bruise. "I transferred the deed last month. Cody owns it now." She blinked. Her face went white. "Excuse me. You heard me. It's legal. Recorded. Irrevocable. You're a guest here at best. And that thumbprint you used to unlock the front door? It won't work tomorrow. I'll give you tonight. One more night to sleep in the bed you poisoned. Then you're gone." She opened her mouth to scream. I walked away. This wasn't the end. Not even close. It was only the taste. The beginning of her real yoga session, where the only thing stretching was her illusion of control. She didn't leave the next morning. Of course she didn't. She woke up late, as if nothing had happened. Walked into the kitchen in her silk robe, humming some god-awful tune from the 70s, poured herself a glass of orange juice, and dared to ask if I'd be making pancakes. I didn't answer. Just watched her from my seat at the table, my coffee cooling in front of me, steam gone, but my hands steady. She leaned against the counter and gave me that fake little smile, the one she used to give our neighbors when she was lying about why we couldn't attend their barbecues. "You're really gonna make this ugly, huh?" she said, like she was in control, like I was throwing a tantrum and she was the rational one. I didn't blink. "You have until sundown." That got to her. I saw her grip the counter a little tighter, but she still laughed. "And what? You'll change the locks? You think you can just erase me from this house like I never existed?" "No," I said, sipping. "I already did." Then I stood up, walked to the door, and left. Let her stew. Let her squirm. The real storm wasn't the deed or the door. It was the silence, the waiting, the knowing that something was coming and not knowing when it would hit. I had errands to run. First stop was Bill's office. He handed me a manila envelope, thick, sealed. "Everything's in there," he said. "Final filings. Updated revocable trust with your name and Cody's. Her name is nowhere. And the footage?" He tapped the envelope. "Bottom of the stack. You sure you want to use it?" No, I said. I just want her to know I can. Bill nodded slowly. And if she fights? She won't, I said. She's the type that only swings when she thinks the other person's blind. Once she knows I've seen it all, she'll scatter like a cockroach. From there, I drove to the locksmith, gave them the order, scheduled the smart lock reboot for tomorrow, noon sharp. Cody would handle the install. Amy would be long gone or locked out permanently. I picked up groceries after that. Not for her, just for me. My fridge was still full of the almond milk she never drank and kale she let rot. I bought eggs, bacon, whole milk, a ribeye the size of a steering wheel. I wasn't eating rabbit food anymore. I wasn't living like a guest in my own house. When I got back, she was in the living room with a wine glass and her phone, legs curled under her like she owned the couch. She was laughing softly, texting. Probably Kai. Probably updating him on the ridiculous tantrum her poor, delusional husband was throwing. She looked up, gave me a syrupy smile. Hey, she said. We should talk. Sure, I said. After dinner. I'll make it, she said, as if this were her domain again. Maybe we can just put this behind us. Put this behind us. I nodded, playing along. Let's eat first. Dinner was salmon. Overcooked. Bitter. She poured me a glass of wine, which I didn't drink. I watched her across the table, watched her laugh too hard at her own story about a woman at the studio who slipped in pigeon pose. I nodded where I had to, but I didn't speak. She was trying to charm me, reel me back, not out of guilt, fear. She was realizing it wasn't just about losing a house. It was about losing control. After dinner, she cornered me in the hallway. Why are you doing this, Michael? She said, her voice lower now, rehearsed. We've been through so much. I stared at her. Have we? Yes. You know we have. I stepped in, close enough that she had to tilt her head to keep eye contact. Tell me the truth, I said. Right now. Say it out loud. She hesitated. And then, finally, she said it. I've been seeing him. No apology. No shame. Just a fact. I waited for the next line, the excuse, the blame. Sure enough, it came. But you were never present. You stopped being romantic. You. Stop. I raised my hand. You cheated. Period. You don't understand, she whispered, her voice cracking. No, I said. You don't. I walked past her, into the bedroom, closed the door. She stood outside it for 5 minutes. I didn't move. Eventually, I heard her go back downstairs. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Not because I was torn, because I was patient. She still thought there was a window, a chance to fix it, a possibility she'd cry just enough, twist her words just right, and I'd cave. But she didn't know what I had planned. Tomorrow, her entire reality would shift. Tomorrow, I'd show her what it means to be left behind. Truly left behind. She was on the phone at dawn. I heard her whispering. I didn't need to listen through the door. I'd rigged the hallway smoke detector with a mic weeks ago. All I had to do was pull up the feed on my phone and listen as she tiptoed around the living room, barefoot, cradling her coffee like it could save her. It's not working, she murmured. He's not budging. I don't know what the hell he's playing at. He just keeps smiling, like some psycho monk. And he said Cody owns the house. Do you believe that? His grandson. Pause. No, I didn't see any papers. But he's got that smug look. Like he knows something. Another pause. Her voice dropped to a bitter whisper. I should have taken more when I had the chance. There it was. The truth, unwrapped. Stripped of the faux guilt, the crocodile tears. It was never about love. Never about Kai and his tantric nonsense or her spiritual rebirth in Bali. It was about taking. Always was. She hung up fast when she heard me in the kitchen. But she didn't look at me. Just grabbed her purse and said, going to clear my head. I said nothing. Let her leave. She didn't know that while she was running her mouth to Kai, I was already finishing the trap. Every angle was locked in now. The final move wasn't just eviction. It was exposure. Not because I needed revenge, but because she needed to be seen. The real her. No filters. No yoga glow. Just raw, ugly truth. And it started with the graduation. Amy had spent the last 2 years dragging herself through an online master's in integrative health or whatever nonsense field she thought would make her sound like a guru. The ceremony was tomorrow. She'd been prepping for weeks. Dress steamed. Hair appointment scheduled. Even hired a photographer to document her transformation. But she didn't know I'd spoken to someone on the planning committee. Didn't know I'd made a quiet donation to the alumni fund, just big enough to get a 5-minute speaking slot for spouses of graduates. She didn't know they let me write my own little note for the program booklet either. I spent that afternoon writing my speech. Not long, just enough to hit like a brick. Then I slipped into her office. She always left her laptop open. Password was still Moonchild88. Pathetic. I wasn't there to snoop. I already knew everything. I was there to print what I needed, her messages with Kai, the ones she thought she deleted. I had the backup files. I'd installed the keystroke tracker months ago, back when she started hiding her phone like it held nuclear codes. I printed 10 of the worst ones. Lines like, "He's so slow. Sometimes I think he already knows and just doesn't care. I can't wait until I don't have to fake it anymore. It's almost cute how he still tries to cook for me." I folded each one, slipped them into envelopes, labeled them carefully. To her mother, to our pastor, to her mentor, to the graduation committee, and one special envelope for Amy herself, to open after the ceremony. By the time she got home that night, I had dinner on the table. Her favorite, grilled eggplant with balsamic glaze and quinoa. She eyed it suspiciously. "This looks nice. You've worked hard," I said. "You deserve to celebrate." She sat down slowly, ate like a woman waiting for the punchline. But it never came. Not yet. I smiled, poured wine, let her talk about hairstyles and stage directions and who would be there. She even asked if I'd sit next to her mother. I said I'd be honored. After dinner, she relaxed. She thought I'd cracked, that her seduction by silence had worked, that she was back in control. She poured herself another glass and leaned across the table. "Michael," she said, with that tone she saved for manipulation and pity. "I know we've had a rough patch, but I want you there tomorrow. Truly, you're still my husband." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I leaned in. I wouldn't miss it for the world. That night, while she curled up with herbal tea and her fake gratitude journal, I watched her from the hallway. Not out of sorrow, not out of longing. I was watching a con artist rehearse her final act, blissfully unaware that the stage lights were rigged to burn. The audience would see the truth tomorrow, and so would she. She wore white, not cream, not off-white. White, like a bride, like she was being reborn in front of everyone instead of just stepping up to a rented podium in a community college auditorium. The dress hugged her in all the places Kai liked to grab, and her smile was so wide, it looked painful. That day, she wasn't Amy, the woman who gutted our marriage. She was Dr. Amy Holloway, holistic wellness evangelist, or whatever fake title she'd started using in her emails. She was glowing, and not from pride, from victory. She thought she'd won. The car ride was silent. She sat in the passenger seat touching up her makeup in the visor mirror, humming a melody I hadn't heard since she'd been cheating in secret. A tune from Kai's playlist. I knew it. I had the damn thing downloaded. "I hope Mom's not late," she said, reapplying her lipstick. "She's going to want to take 100 pictures." I grunted, focused on the road. "You're not still mad, are you?" she said sweetly. "I mean, this day is about us too. In a way. Like I'd somehow earned the right to attend my own funeral." I parked in the front lot, took my time pulling the envelopes from the glove box. She didn't see. She was too busy texting someone, him, I was sure. Telling him where to meet her afterward, what hotel to head to, what she'd wear underneath the white. The moment we walked into the auditorium, I felt it. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Her mother waved us over. Her sister gave me that polite, stiff smile that said we both know you're an afterthought. Amy soaked in the attention, kissing cheeks, hugging strangers like a celebrity on tour. The photographer buzzed around her like a gnat. Then the dean took the mic, introduced the honorees, spoke about personal transformation and authentic growth. Every word sounded like a personal joke, aimed at me. Amy sat down beside me, crossed her legs, and whispered, "This is my favorite part." I nodded. "It's mine too," because I knew what was coming. The dean cleared his throat. "Now, before we proceed to the individual acknowledgments, we're honored to welcome a special guest, a family member of one of our graduates, who asked to speak briefly about perseverance, partnership, and perspective." Amy blinked. "Please welcome Michael Holloway." She turned to me slowly, her mouth opening, but no sound coming out. I stood, smoothed my jacket, walked up to the stage. Every step felt like thunder in my chest. Not from nerves. From clarity. I took the mic, looked out across the sea of smiling strangers, plastic chairs, and diploma folders. "Good afternoon," I said. "My name is Michael Holloway, husband to Amy Holloway, who graduates today. I came here to speak about perseverance, about what it means to believe in someone, even when it hurts, about what happens when you give everything you have, your time, your trust, your home, and still end up a footnote in your own life story." Murmurs. Amy was frozen, hands clenched in her lap, still trying to guess where I was going. "You see," I continued, "Amy has changed a lot in the past 2 years. She's pursued her passion, explored her identity, and redefined her values. She's even restructured our marriage." The crowd stirred. One of her classmates chuckled. They thought it was a joke. "But it's not the changes that define us," I said. "It's how we carry them, with honesty, or in secret." Amy stood, quietly, took a step toward the stage. I held up a hand. "Let me finish, dear." She froze. I pulled the envelope from my coat pocket, held it up. "This," I said, "is a copy of Amy's love letters. Not to me, of course, but to a man named Kai, her yoga instructor. Her soulmate, she says. The man she's been sneaking off with for months while I was paying off our mortgage, planning our future, making her dinner." Gasps. One woman in the second row put a hand over her mouth. Her mother dropped her program. "I burned that mortgage note last week," I said. I was going to surprise her. Instead, she surprised me by announcing she was leaving, running off, freeing herself. I smiled, and so I freed her. I held up the second envelope. "This is the deed. Transferred to my grandson. She no longer owns the house, no longer lives in it. As of today, her thumbprint won't even open the front door." Amy's face twisted. Red. Pale. Then red again. She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. "I'll leave you with this," I said. "People like Amy thrive in shadows, in secrecy. But light? Light reveals everything." I set the mic down gently, walked off stage, handed her mother her envelope on the way out. I didn't look back. Outside, I stood under a sky too blue for the chaos I just dropped. The doors behind me didn't burst open. Not yet. But when they did, when Amy came running out, heels clacking, white dress catching in the wind, face twisted in pure rage, I was already in the car. Already gone. She hadn't even gotten to the worst part yet. That came next. That came tonight. She didn't come home. Not that night. Not even to pack. I waited until after midnight, sitting in the living room, lights off, one lamp on near the staircase casting long, crooked shadows across the floor. The kind of scene you'd expect in an old noir movie, just missing the jazz and the cigarette smoke. Her heels never clicked against the porch. Her key never scratched the lock. Because she already knew it wouldn't work. I imagined her at some hotel. Somewhere off the highway, maybe. Her mascara smudged, dress stuffed in the bottom of a suitcase, muttering curses while Kai rubbed her shoulders and whispered half-truths about healing and letting go of the past. Maybe they were toasting with cheap wine. Maybe they were fighting. Didn't matter. What mattered was that she stayed away. She didn't get to return to the scene of the crime. Not anymore. By morning, the silence in the house had changed. It wasn't haunted anymore. It was cleansed. I got up early, showered slow, made coffee strong, and sat by the window with a fresh set of keys. At noon, Cody arrived in his beat-up pickup, toolbox rattling in the back. "You ready?" he asked, already grinning. "Let's finish it." We swapped out the smart lock. Simple job, done in under 20 minutes. We tested it, my thumbprint, Cody's. Worked perfectly. Then we wiped the others, hers included. I stared at that tiny screen on the lock as it blinked once, then settled. No access. It was done. The house no longer recognized her. Her fingerprints, her laugh, her footsteps, they no longer belonged here. I handed Cody the spare key. "Keep it locked. Always. No exceptions." "You think she'll try to come back?" I didn't even blink. "She will come back. Not to beg. Not to apologize. But to negotiate." And I was right. Because at 4:13 p.m., my phone buzzed. Blocked number. Of course. I let it ring twice before answering. "Michael," she said. Her voice was taut, like a string stretched to snapping. I can't get in. The lock. I told you, I said, calm as water. You don't live here anymore. This is my house. Check the deed. Silence. Then louder, sharper. You had no right. I had every right. A long inhale on her end. I just need to get some things. I didn't answer. I'm not going to argue, she continued. I'm trying to be reasonable. I'm not. You're being petty, Michael. That made me laugh. No, Amy. Petty was you making fun of me in bed with your boyfriend while I paid off your future. This is strategy. More silence. Then, quietly, please. I could hear her pride choking in her throat. But I wasn't there to save it. There's a box on the porch, I said. Packed everything you left in the bathroom and closet. I even labeled your shampoo and left you a note. Michael. Goodbye, Amy. I hung up. Then I stepped outside. Watched through the blinds as her white Jeep crept around the corner. She got out. She didn't look up at the windows. She didn't knock. She walked to the porch, opened the box, stared at the contents like they were evidence from a crime scene. Because they were. Evidence of who she used to be. What she'd thrown away. The life she'd hollowed out. She opened the note. I knew what it said. I'd written it slow, with purpose. Asterisk, you burned your bridge. I just locked the ashes in a vault. Asterisk. She folded the paper, tucked it into her purse, then looked up, finally. Right at the window. I didn't flinch. She did. She climbed back into the Jeep. Drove away. But I knew it wasn't over. Amy was wounded now. And people like her, people who feed on control and always keep a backup plan, don't disappear quietly. She would try again. Not to reclaim me. No, that version of Amy never existed. She'd come for blood. For narrative. For the power to spin what happened. She'd play victim. And I was ready. The first smear post went up 2 days later. Facebook. Of course. She started with a soft one. Just a photo of her in that white dress, standing beside her mother, smiling like she hadn't just been publicly undressed in front of 200 people. The caption? Despite betrayal and cruelty, I stood tall. Today, I choose peace. And truth. Dizzy #new beginnings #freedom #resilience. Truth. I nearly spit my coffee. I clicked the post, watched the comments roll in from the peanut gallery, friends of hers I barely remembered, the fake spiritual types with sun tattoos and names like Dawn and Harmony. You're glowing, babe. Some men just can't handle a powerful woman. Let him go. Rise above. Let him go. They said it like I was some clingy barnacle she had to scrape off to ascend to enlightenment. Like I had been the anchor dragging her down, instead of the man who put food in her mouth while she fed lies to mine. I didn't reply. Didn't comment. Didn't even like it. I just took a screenshot, saved it to the new folder, public lies. I knew it would get worse. That post wasn't for healing. It was for positioning. She was bracing for a story. She was about to write one. And I had to be ready to burn her script to the ground. It didn't take long. By Friday, the messages started coming in. Old friends. Family. Even my brother, who barely speaks to me unless there's a football game on. Mike, what the hell's going on? She's saying you kicked her out without a cent. Is it true you emptied her accounts? She was painting me as the villain now. Not just a bitter old husband, but a controlling, dangerous man who'd sabotaged her dreams out of spite. She said I stole her home, hijacked her future, weaponized money against her. No mention of Kai. No mention of the Jeep she was riding like a rented amusement park attraction. Just my name, dragged through shallow mud in pretty language. That night, I logged into the account I never thought I'd use. An alias account I made years ago when I first started seeing cracks in Amy's facade. I never posted. Just watched. But now? Now I had ammo. I posted one thing. A photo. Amy on my garage security cam, pressed against my Explorer, Kai behind her, both of them half naked. Clear as daylight. Time-stamped. No commentary. No accusations. Caption? Peace begins when the lies end. I didn't tag her. Didn't mention names. Didn't need to. Within an hour, it had over 500 shares. By midnight, I had 3 voicemails from her mother, screaming. By morning, Amy's account was locked. She called me at 8:12 a.m. Blocked number again. I answered. You filthy bastard, she hissed. Her voice cracked like glass under a boot. You had no right. I had every right. You humiliated me. No, I said. You did that. I just turned on the lights. You think this makes you the good guy? She spat. You think people are on your side now? I smiled. Does it matter? I asked. This isn't about sides. This is about truth. And yours is out now. She was breathing hard, like she wanted to lunge through the phone and claw at me. You'll regret this, she whispered. Already did, I said, and hung up. But I wasn't done. I sent the footage, unedited, to Bill, my lawyer. I told him to make copies. Send them to her attorney. If she so much as hinted at a legal challenge over the house, over anything, that footage would end up in court. Amy had pushed every button. She'd lied, cheated, gaslit, smeared. And now she was out of moves. Except one. The last one. The desperate one. I knew it was coming. People like her only fake retreat. They always circle back. When they think you've exhaled. When they think you're finally calm. That's when they strike. It was a Tuesday when she broke in. She didn't smash a window. That would have been too obvious. Too risky. Amy was still clinging to the last shreds of her curated persona, the misunderstood spiritual woman, the self-healer navigating toxic masculinity with grace. She couldn't afford a mugshot. So she waited until I was out. Or so she thought. I had a dental appointment that morning. Left at 9, came back at 10:45. At 10:38, my Ring camera caught her slipping around the back of the house. Hoodie up. Sunglasses on. Gloves. She didn't see the other cameras. Didn't know I'd added 2 new ones last week. One by the basement entrance, one by the guest room window. She used the latter. Slid it open with a flathead screwdriver like she'd done it before. And maybe she had. I watched the footage from my phone in the driveway. Watched her step into my house like she still had a claim to it. Watched her move through the kitchen, avoiding the motion sensors because she remembered their placement. Like a thief who used to live in the museum. I didn't go in right away. I let her settle. Let her act. She wasn't just grabbing her shampoo or her spare cardigan. No, Amy was looking. Pulling open drawers. Cabinets. Her eyes were focused, not frantic. She was after something. Paperwork, probably. Evidence of the deed. Bank statements. Or maybe, God help her, she was trying to find the safe. I called the police from the driveway. Told them someone had entered my home illegally. Gave them the address. Told them there were no weapons, that I would remain outside. Then I waited. 5 minutes later, I stepped in through the front door quiet, measured, and found her in my office. The safe was open, but empty. Of course. I'd moved everything after the graduation. She turned when she heard me. And for the first time in months, really looked at me. Her face wasn't angry. It wasn't smug. It was bare. Like the mask had finally cracked and fallen to the floor. I just needed proof, she said quietly. Proof of what? That you set me up. I laughed. Laughed. Right in her face. Set you up? Amy, you climbed into my house through a window like a junkie. There's footage. There are police on the way. You're lucky I didn't come in with a baseball bat. She opened her mouth. Shut it. Swallowed. Then she tried to pivot, her favorite trick. This is still my home. No, it's not. You can't just erase history, Michael. You already did. Sirens. She heard them too. Her eyes darted to the window. Her breath quickened. And that's when the real Amy came out. The one she hid from everyone else. The one I saw only in glimpses, the predator behind the silk robe. You think this makes you noble? She hissed. You think you're some kind of hero now? Everyone's laughing at you, Michael. They see you for what you are. Small. Bitter. Alone. You'll die alone. I stepped closer. Better alone than fake, I said. Better real than hollow. Police knocked. I opened the door. 2 officers stepped in, asked her name, asked mine, asked if she had permission to be inside. She said nothing. I handed them the footage on a USB stick. Offered them coffee. They took her out in cuffs. Didn't arrest her, not fully. Just detained her for trespassing. Enough to scare her. Enough to stain her name. Enough to remind her that consequences aren't a myth for people like her. They're just delayed. She didn't look at me as they let her out. And I didn't watch her leave. I just closed the door. Locked it. And finally exhaled. But I knew it wasn't over. There was one thing she still had. Her mouth. And she was going to use it. The story wasn't ending. The climax hadn't hit yet. That came next. She went nuclear. I expected a tantrum. What I got was a full-blown PR campaign. 3 days after the break-in, Amy published an article on Medium. Not a blog post, a full essay, formatted like a survivor's manifesto. Title: Trapped Behind the Smile. My Journey Escaping an Emotionally Abusive Marriage. She used a pseudonym, Elena H. But the photo was unmistakable. Her, standing barefoot on a beach at sunrise, arms open like a martyr receiving divine truth. The story she wove was fiction soaked in just enough fact to feel real to strangers. She painted me as a gaslighter, a controller, a master manipulator who kept her isolated and spiritually malnourished. Claimed I weaponized generosity, hid finances, withheld affection. Said I monitored her movements, made her feel unsafe in her own body, and retaliated when she tried to leave by locking her out of the home she helped build. No mention of Kai. No mention of adultery. No garage footage. No Jeep. Just smoke and mirrors, dressed as grief. It went viral in 2 days. Picked up by a self-help influencer on TikTok. Shared on Instagram stories by amateur therapists who called it raw, urgent, necessary. Comments poured in. Strangers rallied to her side. Women with ring lights and PayPal links told her they saw her, that she was brave, that she was teaching others how to break the silence. She was winning again, but not with me. See, Amy didn't know that I'd spent those same days doing my own kind of writing. An affidavit, drafted with bill, accompanied by legal exhibits, the footage, the messages, the time-stamped logs of her trespass, the bank statement showing transfers to Kai's account, the hotel bills in her name with 2 guests checked in, the audio clip of her bragging to her friend about milking the old man dry. And now we had one more weapon, her article. Because in that piece, she made one critical mistake. She accused me of a crime. Emotionally abusive, she wrote, but then casually dropped the word coercive. Legal. Loaded. Dangerous. I filed the paperwork the next morning. Defamation. Civil suit. Public. By noon, my inbox was exploding. Bill's phone rang nonstop. Her attorney tried to reach a resolution. They wanted a conversation. I wanted war. So I gave them 2 options. 1. Full retraction, public apology, posted to every platform she'd smeared me on, and a written admission that her article was embellished for dramatic effect. Or 2. We go to court. I subpoena Kai, her friends, her phone records, her browser history, and I drag her curated soul-searching face through every inch of dirt she thought I wouldn't touch. They hesitated. And while they did, I published my response. Not on Medium. On Facebook. From my real name. Caption: Since she told her truth, here's mine. Attached, a link to a private page. Simple layout. No opinions. Just facts. A timeline. Dates. Receipts. Screenshots. The footage. No spin. No sob story. Just proof. It spread faster than hers. Not because I had followers, but because I had receipts. The comments turned. People asked questions. Her silence grew louder than her cries. And then, like every narcissist exposed in daylight, Amy did what they all do. She pivoted. Claimed mental health struggles. Said she was processing trauma. Temporarily deactivated her profiles. Asked for space to heal. But the damage was done. She'd fired her final shot. And missed. She didn't just lose the house. She lost her narrative. The stage collapsed under her. And now? Now came the reckoning. Not from me. From the people she'd tried to fool. The friends who ghosted her. The sponsorships that pulled out. The retreat she was set to co-host that quietly removed her photo from the flyer. Amy hadn't just burned the bridge. She danced on the flames. And now, all that was left was ashes. The letter came in a plain white envelope, no return address, slipped into my mailbox like a whisper. It wasn't handwritten. Amy never did have the patience for that. Just a single-typed page, double-spaced, 12-point font. Cold. Efficient. Like she was filing a grievance with the universe. Michael, you got what you wanted. I'm out. You've dragged my name, my story, my entire life through the dirt. Congratulations. I hope the silence in that house is worth it. I hope the emptiness keeps you warm. I won't be contacting you again. You won. Or maybe we both lost. Whatever. Amy. That was it. No signature. No apology. No admission. But there, tucked behind the letter, was something else. A Polaroid. An actual, physical photo. of her and Kai, smiling, in front of some waterfall in Bali. He looked like a man playing dress-up. Man bun slicked back, tribal beads, shirt open just enough to make you question whether he was wearing one. And Amy? Amy looked tired. Not physically, spiritually. The kind of tired that seeps into your bones when every mask you've ever worn has fused to your face and started to crack from the inside. I held the photo for a full minute before tearing it clean down the middle. Then again, and I didn't burn it. I buried it. Beneath the silver maple Cody and I planted that morning, she told me she was leaving. 6 feet down. One final grave in a story filled with slow, silent deaths. Closure isn't a firework. It doesn't come with cheering or music swelling or doors slamming. It's a sigh, a chair pushed back from the table, a dinner cooked for one and enjoyed. Amy was gone. The locks had changed. The whispers had stopped. The headlines faded. Her defenders fell quiet. Kai deleted his Instagram. No farewell tour. No curtain call. Just stillness. And in that stillness, I found something I didn't expect. Peace. Not the loud kind that demands a soundtrack or an audience, but the kind that looks like a single man in his 60s walking through his own home barefoot, windows open, birdsong leaking in. I started taking care of the garden again. Repainted the guest room. Cody came by every Saturday. Sometimes brought his girlfriend. We'd barbecue, laugh, watch football. Life resumed. Not like before. Better. Because the lie was gone. And in its place, truth. Ugly. Brutal. But clean. If you're reading this because you're there, if your gut is screaming but you're afraid of what you'll find, open the door. Rip the mask. Take the shot. And when they crawl back in the dark with stories, with guilt, with 1,000 twisted apologies, don't listen. Don't argue. Just change the lock. And smile when the door doesn't open.